what does our customer need? What's going to make a difference for them? I mean, we have this unifying goal across Bench, which is to make a profound difference in the quality of life of 1 million people. That's like the sport of Bench. Scoring a goal for us is, we have a survey we send out to our customers where, very short survey, it's 2 questions. One of those questions is, has Bench made a profound difference in the quality of your life? And that is the actual number that we track of, are we making progress towards what we came here to do?
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Afternoon Tea. I'm super duper excited because I have the Ian Crosby of Bench joining us. Ian, before we start, let me just set this up. Ian Crosby is the co-founder and CEO of Bench, North America's largest bookkeeping. Whoa, we're going to go with that again. Bookkeeping, you're not beekeeping. Bookkeeping service, recognizing that entrepreneurs go into business to pursue a passion, not to do administrative work. That is bang on. Ian saw the opportunity to improve lives for small business owners by making bookkeeping simple, effortless, and affordable. Originally launched out of Techstars, New York City in 2012, Bench has raised over $100 million US to date and has been ranked the fastest growing company in BC, according to the Deloitte Fast 50. Ian has received numerous awards for leadership, including Forbes 30 Under 30 and Canada's Top 40 Under 40, which is incredibly impressive, I got to say. Ian, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks, my pleasure. And by the way, my brother is actually a beekeeper, so we've got all the bases covered. Yeah,
that is incredible. Oh my gosh, I won't ask which one of you is your mom's favorite then, because both are incredibly admirable. well, Ian, tell you what, Bench. I mean, I've known about it for such a long time, and thought it's such a great brand and company. But tell me the origin story. How did you set it up?
The origin story.
The founder story.
Yeah, I mean, depends how far you want to go back here. Working at my dad's office, he was a lawyer. I was, reconciling his books when I was 15, and then I got a job I thought I wanted to work in video games. I got a job as a bookkeeper at a video game company because it was just like, that's the future, just knocking on the doors of all these video game companies. Whatever job I can get, I need a bookkeeper. Okay, I'm your man, I'll be your bookkeeper, And then got in there very quickly, was sort of like, how am I your best option? Like, how I'm a 19-year-old business student. How is there not a place how's there not a brand that you're like, hey, I don't know anything about this and it's really important. So can I just give you my credit card and you'll do the thing, and take care, make sure I'm taken care of. All the things that need to be done are done. I don't know what those things are or how to do them. Can I just not know any of those things and do what I'm good at, please? And they just totally entrusted me to, run all the finances of this business, which, was great, but also sort of raised questions, right? So a few years later, that thought just stuck with me. There's got to be something for people that they shouldn't have to think about this stuff. And they should just, it should be affordable. It should be effortless. It should just be the brand you trust. There's all kinds of things. If I'm going to buy a phone, I'm not like, okay, so what kind of components am I going to buy to put together so this thing functions? Should I buy the Qualcomm chip? It's like, no, that is complicated. Like, I'm just going to go to the phone store and get you're saying that's the good one? Okay, yes, I will take the iPhone, whatever, thing you're going to give me. It's got lots of, I'm not reading the back going it's got this now, right? It's like, yeah, it's going to say a bunch of impressive things. Great. But overall, I know that it's going to give me what I need because Apple is very thoughtful about this and I trust them. And that should be the experience of having your accounting done. You just be able to go to the accounting store and you're like, I don't know what I need. Can you just help? And then they go, okay, well, let's talk about, what your needs are. I'm going to ask you some questions and we're going to get you set up. You're going to be taken care of. And you're never going to have to worry about this again. And by the way, the IRS isn't going to be banging down your door because everything got screwed up.
It's such a necessary part of business, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
it's such a necessary part of business, and not only do recognize that it's mundane. And I mean, I'm blessed; I don't have to deal with that side. And when people start talking about it, I honestly glaze over because I want to focus on the creation side. But it's so important, for the business. Well, tell you what. I mean, Bench recently raised, I mean, this is really exciting. Just very recently, I think it was last week, we saw that, the Series C of $60 million. First question, when were you most excited about that raise? Was it when you closed the deal or when you publicly announced the deal?
I don't know if I feel excitement about raising anymore. More like relief, it's like this like, it's exciting for other people to find out about. It's not usually exciting for the founder. It's funny, like usually I talk to my other friends who are founders and we're all like, okay, got it done. It's like, it's a really hard thing. It doesn't matter how successful a business looks, fundraising is hard. And it's just, so many meetings, so many questions, so many, so much paperwork, it's like, I think I was probably most excited when I had my deck done and I was like, this is awesome. This is going to go great. Like before my first meeting, right? Like before making contact with reality, it was like, oh yeah, like the business looks so great. Investors are going to be excited and we're going to be able to raise a great round. And then, it's sort of like, 20 meetings later, you're just like, okay, all right, I have to say the same thing again to a new set of people, answer the same questions. Yeah, I mean, in terms of, I assume you said this podcast for entrepreneurs. This is why I'm giving them sort of like the inside goods.
That's
if,
right.
If an entrepreneur is out there raising money, it's like, if it doesn't feel exciting, it doesn't mean you're doing it wrong. That's totally normal.
well, now that you've raised C, are you looking at D instantly? Like, that you did B, did you look at C?
No, we raised enough that it was sort of like, it covers many years of capital investments and burn and gets us to break even with a big margin,
Fantastic.
Like we're not on the sort of like, all right, 18 months, burn it up. We better hit some milestones or we're dead. I've done that before. I've been doing bench for 8 years now. And I've cut enough years off my lifespan with the stress that now it's sort of like we do a very, I don't know, more conservative, safer, it's like, if you're going to be in the business for a long time, it can't always be seat of your pants exciting. It's like, I got 2 kids, I need a good night's sleep now. I need to, know like, okay. And also a lot of people are depending on it. Right? It's not just sort of like, okay, it's the 4 of us in a basement, woo, like this is our thing. No, it's like there's a lot of people dependent on it. This is the thing.
How big is the team?
Thousands of people.
How big is the team right now?
We have almost 700 people now.
Wow, that can take 60 million quickly. Then that's well,
if you don't have revenue, it definitely will eat up. Yeah.
I would imagine. Well, what's the first thing you closed the deal and this is going to be the question that the investors are going to ask, but what's the first thing that you invest in Bench? Like you go, hey, I'm going to take this money and this is the very first thing we recognize we need help in. Is it sales? Is it product? Like what is it that you focus on with that initial thought?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what, I can talk about Bench. We've had a vision for what this thing needs to look like for a long time. And then you sort of have this multi-stage plan. Okay, we're gonna do this, then we're gonna do this, then we're gonna do this. So it's kind of like, what does the next stage of the plan entail? That's where the investment goes, right? So a lot of it right now is product and technology investment. We're going to be between doubling and tripling the team in the next, by the end of 2021.
Significant.
So just because there's a lot of technology to be built, but a lot of the like sales and marketing machinery is very well honed, well tuned, like a lot of the operations that we've built up. And it's, we're going to be making investments, but it's not the kind of like double or triple investment. It's like, well, that's actually quite good, quite mature for the level of the business that we're at. And it's more about incorporating new technologies and building this into a more complete solution. So, and executing on partnerships. Yeah, but at different stages of the business, it might be different, right? There's other fundraisers you do where it's like, okay, this is all earmarked for marketing because it's time to grow and like the product's ready, it's time to hit the market. And we had one of those earlier on in our lives.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's the stage. Well, how did you go about differentiating Bench? I mean, it's 8 years ago, so SaaS is just starting to get hot. The whole concept and philosophy. Accounting, that's a necessary. Everyone knows it's needed. So
Mhm.
we have a product. User need. How do you differentiate yourself? Like, how do you make yourselves that much better than the other offerings?
Yeah, we don't focus on other offerings. We really focus on just what does our customer need? What's going to make a difference for them? I mean, we have um, this unifying goal across Bench, which is to make a profound difference in the quality of life of 1 million people. That's like the sport of Bench. Scoring a goal for us is, we have a survey we send out to our customers where, it's a very short survey. It's 2 questions. One of those questions is, has Bench made a profound difference in the quality of your life? And that is the actual number that we track of, are we making progress towards what we came here to do? Because if you get someone to say that, it's like, wait, what?
Well,
Like, why? How? What did we do? Tell me.
I love that. I love that. And do you know why I love that? And it's on our wall right there, which is actually our raison d'etre, our vision, which is to create software that impacts 1 billion lives. And we use that as our barometer for choosing our our product,
Yeah.
our partner clients,
Yeah.
because you can make money, or you can make money and make impact. And I love how you're seeing it in a very similar way. Like, it's about
Yeah.
the customer. It's
Yeah.
it's that, how do we make the customer happy and feel like this is something that just works?
Yeah, exactly.
And that's the beautiful thing of SaaS. Well, the pandemic, how is that helped, hindered? Is that made a difference? Through
It's
digital
definitely made a
transformation?
difference. I wouldn't say it's helped or hindered. I would say it's been a lateral sort of movement of us having to change a whole bunch of things and our priorities during the pandemic. But that, there were disadvantages and advantages. I mean, if you were a restaurant in this pandemic, you went through a very hard period of time. And there were a lot of clients where our focus was keeping them in business, making sure they were getting their paycheck protection paycheck protection program money. If you were an e-commerce store, you were just flying. 90% of them, just the shift to e-commerce has been massive. The focus there is like helping them get financing for their inventory, because they got so much sales now, they have to increase their inventory rapidly. So it's been very different by industry. We established ourselves as really the authority in paycheck protection program information. Like, if you Google it today, PVP today, Bench is the number 2 hit after the Small Business Administration, which actually gives up the money.
Significant.
Yeah. And our blog, it 10x'd over the course of the pandemic in terms of us like realizing people just need this information, and no one's paying us to do this, but we realized no one was doing it. So, we're going to just be responsible in terms of doing the thing that people need us to do.
Sure.
And so it definitely shifted priorities. We didn't have any kind of marketing plan of like, all right, it's January, we're seeing a virus in China. All right, next thing is the government's going to drop $2 trillion in the economy. We got to be ready. Like, this was not, the best laid plans, right? But we just reacted really quickly from that place of, well, what will make a difference for people? It's like, and to the tangible, like real life, like, what would you have to do that you would make such an impact on someone that you would send them the survey and they would say, yes, you made a profound difference to the quality of my life? Like, literally, how do you make that number go up?
What if they say no? How do you respond?
Yeah, I mean, most people say no, right? I mean, if you walk into a coffee shop and they asked you, has this coffee made a profound difference in the quality of your life? You're like, what are you talking about? It's fine. It's a block closer than the next place, and the coffee is good. I would say it's made a profound difference in the quality of my life. But what's astounding is that, about 30% of people say yes. And then we follow up with them and go, what happened that you would say that Bench made a profound difference in the quality of your life? And you get their story. It's just really incredible. I mean, how many people just the anxiety that they no longer have to deal with. The stories of people where they'd be out of business. It's really incredible, and that's what we focus on. Like, now the number of people that's like I would not have known, I would not have been able to get this money during the pandemic that saved my business without Bench being there, informing me. And, we just reached out to all of our customers going, hey, do you need help getting this? Like, we're not going to pay us anything. We just want to help. This is part of, what.
Take care of the customer.
Yeah, exactly. And like, sure, we weren't like on our pricing page, like includes like,
hugs and kisses
programs for the next virus that comes along, right? But it's like, whatever it is, whatever comes up, we're going to be there to help you with it and building programs around that because that's what people need.
Sure.
So, yeah.
So you launched, did you launch, you're in Canada and the US, I assume. Are you any other
Just
markets?
The US.
Just the US, not even in Canada.
No, we started in New York. Once we started getting traction there, we realized that wherever we set up shop, we were going to be living there for the next 10 years at least. Actually, we're coming up on 10 years now, and I'm probably going to be here another 10 years at least, right? So we wanted to be really thoughtful about not just, okay, we went through the Techstars New York Accelerator. I guess we're here now. It was sort of like, well, we're 3 Canadians and a Russian. The Russian can't get a US visa and the Canadians want to live in Canada. So where are we going to go? And, out of that, we'd all at various times lived in Vancouver and just, it was the place we wanted to live. So moved us and our 2 employees at the time, all to Vancouver and have scaled from here, but it's still just the US market. I mean, it's so massive. We've got like a fraction of 1% market share, right? It's like, we're not close to being done.
That's fantastic. Well, that's interesting to know why. I mean, it's interesting that Vancouver, it's not always about the business. It's a lot about the immigration and the desire to be here. Yeah. I mean, is there a competitive advantage to being here as well, or is that really just an immigration question?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say there's advantages and disadvantages in any location, and as long as you're going to take advantage of the advantages and mitigate the disadvantages, you'll be fine. And so, we did that in Vancouver. Obviously, one advantage is we can much more easily bring in talent from all over the world than we could if we were located in the US. One of the disadvantages is it's harder to test our product because, we actually often drive, or before the pandemic, and you would drive down south of the border and, just be in person with people in Seattle. So we could actually observe people using the product. Whereas, in Canada, if you're building a product for the US, you can't just walk outside your door, so that's a disadvantage. But, we found ways around either of those things. But I mean, the number one thing was, this was home. This is where we wanted to build our community and our families and just contribute to the economy. I mean, this is where I grew up. So I wanted to give back and just, it's home. Mountains. I'm just like, but where are the mountains? It's like New York is great, but where are the mountains?
New York has the big buildings, right?
Yeah.
But why did you do Techstars in New York then? Like, what was the thought around that?
Well, I mean, Techstars had a huge impact on turning Bench into a viable business, and we thought that would be the case. We applied to Y Combinator and Techstars because they were, the 2 top programs at the time. I guess they still are the 2 top programs. And, we applied way past the Y Combinator deadline. It was like a month over the deadline. So I don't think we got considered, but it was perfect time for the New York program. And also New York seemed like a cool place to go. And we were all living in different places at the time. So it was the first time actually we had the entire team together in one place.
Where did you all meet then? I mean, you're global. How did you make a global thing happen?
Global with 4 people.
End up in New York and then Vancouver. How did you do that?
I mean, look, it was my best friend from college, my best friend from high school, and a Russian guy we met online. That was the founding team.
That's the typical story, right? Isn't that the everyday story? So.
It was not like a super, like strategic, well-considered thing. It was like, this little project, a few passionate people going, this could be something, people are missing something, and this needs to exist. Let's just do it, and then
it makes so much sense. Well, speaking of college, because you're at SFU?
I went to UBC.
UBC, but okay. No thing to SFU, but I went to UBC too, so better choice. But we'll leave it at that. Well, I'll give the thumbs up. Now, one regret I have throughout my life is actually because I was going to join up, but I saw that during the university you actually were with the Canadian Forces.
Yeah, that's right.
How did that experience form your becoming a CEO? Did that help at all, or
Yeah, I would say it helped. I mean, my perspective when I was a teenager was I just want to get experiences that are really going to, I think, help me in life and give me perspective. And so, I literally walked into an Army recruiting office and said, "What is the hardest job?"
Nice.
At 17.
Love it.
What is the hardest job? They're like, infantry soldier. Okay, I'll do that.
Do you wish they said general?
No, just Unfortunately, you're not recruiting for that, especially not for the 17-year-old population. But yeah, I was just sort of okay. It was just a really interesting experience. Met very different kinds of people that I would have met, any other way. Did stuff did stuff I would never have done otherwise. Like rappelling down a cliff, just like tying a rope around myself and rappelling off of a cliff, and then flipping upside down and going, "Oh my God, am I dead?" And no, okay, get back up. Just stuff once you just jumped off a cliff with a rope attached to yourself, I think starting a startup feels a little less scary. It's like, okay, the worst that will happen is that I do not fall down 1,000 feet and crack my head open, right? It's like the worst thing that will happen is I do it and it doesn't work, and then I do a different thing. So I could talk myself through, these kind of, the experience starting a business is you just have all of this stuff swirling in your head. It's like a chaotic maelstrom of like, am I smart enough to do this? Is this going to work? Am I an idiot? Like, why hasn't someone else done this before? If it's really that good of an idea, right? It's just like, just do it. Shut up, brain. I think it's there. Let the other voice talk. I think there's something really there. I get it. Learning what voice to listen to, and just persevering and knowing that I could push through things. I think that was a big lesson.
Very cool. Well, what was the most difficult job? What was the answer they gave?
Infantry soldier.
There you go. Because that's what they needed the most too.
That's challenging. I don't know if they needed the most. I think they needed doctors the most.
No, that makes sense.
But in terms of like just pure physical, like staying up for 48 hours straight, like lifting heavy things over and over, being really bored for long periods of time, it is definitely a hard job. It is the hardest job I have ever done.
I could definitely imagine. Well, so the military, once you get there, you start realizing, oh my gosh, everything is so processes driven. Did that, that kind of culture, or that understanding really kind of help form Bench as well?
It's interesting the way, have you served in the forces?
No, I was talked out by a girlfriend, and to this day, I'm honestly so disappointed because I tell my kids, if you don't go to university, that's where you go, because that will form, a good start.
I was just in the reserves, I did it while I was in university. So there's things that are process oriented, and there are things that are much more about delegating to the front line and allowing them to use their judgment. And that's actually what I took away. Like the process stuff was actually some of the worst, horrible, like, oh my God, it's just so poorly done. This is like very old thinking, it's like, but other things where, when you're actually learning about combat, it's not like, okay, wait for the general to tell you what to do. It's like, no, there's those people are shooting at you. You have to use what you know. And, they teach you all kinds of heuristics about like what to do in different situations and like how to take a position and, like what is like you learn a lot of strategy as an infantry soldier. And like that was actually, I would say that was more foundational for Bench, where it's, the thought here is like, no, put the tools in their hands. Like the bookkeeper can actually see what the client is going through. They can see that person's situation, arm that bookkeeper with tools and hire someone with good judgment, and then let them do a good job. And obviously, you're going to have guardrails, and like, have checks, like there's like sort of all this automated sort of like error checking, all kinds of things to ensure good quality. But the first line of defense is hiring a great person and giving them the right direction and then allowing them to do their job. And that's sort of, I think a lot of where people go wrong in bookkeeping is it's like people go straight to like, oh, the people are the problem. You got to have computers do everything. And it's sort of like, we don't have self-driving cars yet. Okay. Right. We just don't. Someday we might. We do not have self-driving cars, and we do not have self-driving accounting. You know, it's like, there is still, you need to rely on great people. And, but, you know, in the tech world, there's this kind of idea of like, you cannot scale people operations. And the military would beg to differ, you know. It's like, even there's the Canadian military, it's got, you know, or the, you know, we're talking about hundreds of thousands of people, you know, and all these people in frontline roles, and the role of training, that was another thing I took away from it, right? It's like, how do you have all these people, and how do you know they know how to do it? Oh, you train them and you invest in them. And so, yeah, a lot of that, you know, I took a lot of some of the really good, really powerful stuff from the military and just like tossed away, you know, the like verbal abuse and like, you know, person screaming in your face with the spittle flying, you know. I have this one, you know, I had this Australian drill sergeant who would, you know, scream in my face, Crosby, there's just neurons in your brain that are not firing, you know.
So you don't forget that stuff.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, now it's a funny story, right? I was not laughing at the time, but, and, you know, it's, you know, just trying to like, you know, get my boots on straight, you know, that kind of stuff. Like there was like a missing button somewhere on my uniform or something, right? It's just like, that stuff not necessary, but some of the stuff they do, it's like, yeah, there's a way that you can have a 1 million person organization execute competently, and a lot of those lessons are just not widely understood or known in the tech industry.
For sure. How, you said you had 2 children. What's the eldest? How old is the eldest?
I have an 8-year-old girl and a 4-year-old boy.
Okay, so the 8-year-old, what do you explain to her saying, Daddy's a CEO? What do you do? Like, how do you explain to her in very simple words? What does a CEO do? What does Ian Crosby do as a CEO to an 8-year-old?
Yeah, I don't tell my 8-year-old I'm a CEO. I just, you know, it's like, there's been various sort of like, yeah, I use the analogy of school. It's like, oh yeah, so I'm like, you know, I'm the principal of my school, you know,
very good.
like that kind of thing. And, you know, and we're all learning and, you know, all this kind of stuff. The one thing she knows, you know, when I ask her, what does bench do? She says, oh, bench counts money. That's nice. Like, you know, in 3 words, how you can have,
boom,
you know, an 8-year-old. Yeah, we count money. Yeah, pretty accurate.
That is slice and dice. So you think she'll be the next CEO of Bench or even a bigger organization? You know,
yeah. I mean, in general, I'm not a huge proponent of nepotism.
Yeah.
So she is going to be a very brilliant, you know, inspiring human being, and you know, she will have a great, you know, career if she wants to, and you know. And I have no idea if it'll be at Bench or somewhere else. But I certainly do not sort of adhere to like, well, the person is the offspring of the founder and therefore everyone needs to listen to them. You know, it's like, wherever she gets to, she will get under her own power.
I dig it. Well, you know what? Let's think about this. Do you have, you know, because we're a Canadian, you know, we're a podcast dedicated to the Canadian market, though, you know, if anyone from the world wants to learn from us, I think they should. But is there like an Canadian entrepreneurial star or founder or someone that you look up to that you're like, wow, you've done some cool stuff?
Yeah. I mean, I know probably a lot of people see this right now, but Tobey of Shopify, I mean, he's been a mentor of mine for many years and just someone, yeah, just there's a lot of learning. He is like 10 steps ahead of most other people in tech.
I hear you.
And just, you know, even just listening to him talk, it's sort of like, I don't know if you realize how like you have put together things in your head that other people have no idea about, you know? So it's, yeah, that's someone that I really enjoy learning from.
I dig that. And I mean, Shopify, they did do a placement in with that round. That's correct, I believe?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so you've known Toby for a long enough time that you can call him up and say, hey, is this something you'd be interested in, or do they ask? Or
No,
how?
that's not. Shopify is a multi-thousand person organization with its own investment arm. So no, those are relatively unconnected things. But I would say like the bigger connection there would just be sort of the cultural similarities and like goals of a two organizations. That would be sort of the more sort of prescient sort of, or the more relevant connection.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, I mean, they do something similar to you. I mean, they made shopping easy. You guys make accounting easy. I mean, that is a really good natural fit.
Yeah. I mean, the focus is on like putting something incredible in the hands of entrepreneurs, and thinking through the experience of running a business through their eyes. And then going, what should the vision be? Like, what would the best version of this? What would be the best experience? And then how do we build towards that? Like that would be I would say the unifying sort of theme between our two companies.
I love that. And again, thinking of the customer, like, they are super important here. Well, I again, the theme here is all about how can we learn from you in order to prepare that next generation of founders. Can you give one good piece of advice, good or bad, or however you want to put it, but one piece of advice that, can help benefit that next gen?
One piece of advice. I always hesitate to give advice because there's no like universal advice.
So no advice is good advice.
It's got to be sort of relevant to the context, but certainly, if you're serving entrepreneurs, just focusing on what is best for the actual customer and not necessarily what is best for your business. Like there's a starting point. A lot of companies, they start from like, what would it be great for our business model if the customer did, And but the thing is, there's actually some businesses that have done that really, really well. Like if you look at like social networks, for example, they're like, it'd be great if we had this network and there was network effects and like I was listening to Reid Hoffman talk about LinkedIn. I'm like, he totally started from what do I need the customer to do to be good for me, right? So I'm like, well, I can't say that was a success, but I'd say certainly in small business, like the biggest successes have come from not from how do we get lock in, how do we, defeat our competitors, how do we all these kind of things. It's from, but what is actually going to make the biggest difference for the end customer, and how do we actually look through this from their eyes and actually talk to them and have them say, wow, this is incredible, right? And then that is just something that has worked over and over and over, and not compromising or focusing on what's best for your business. That
is so perfect.
Yeah,
that is so perfect. Understand the problem, understand the user, understand the benefit that you can offer, and think about it from that instead of saying good old larger vision of Apple going, nope, we know what you want.
Exactly.
Some people can get it, but it's
Yeah, I mean, if you can do it, then you can do it. But again, that's about the customer, right? It's like I'm gonna have a vision about what is like me as a human being, like what is actually going to make a big difference for me, right? Yeah, like I'm not going to say like certain customer research techniques are better than others, right? It's like whatever works, however you actually do that thing. But the motivation, the thought process has to start from like that person actually using the product going, wow, like that should be it. And what would have someone go, yeah, incredible, rather than starting from, what technologies exist today and can we play with them and put them together in a way like that stuff generally doesn't go very far when you're just looking at like, like, ooh, I have some toys, maybe I can put them together and make something useful. Like I mean, you might make something useful, but it's not going to create $1 billion or $10 billion of value.
But I have that conversation with young entrepreneurs all the time. It's the old technology for the sake of technology isn't really a business because it's not solving a problem. Like it goes, wow. And I've fallen into that. Like I go, holy crow. Can you imagine all these cool things it'll do? But at the end of the day, is it needed? Are you creating value? Well, hey, Ian, first off, again, congratulations. I'm really proud of you and your team for, taking the company, taking Bench to such a high level.
Thank you.
And thank you for joining us today and sharing your the journey. It was super interesting.
My pleasure. Yeah, thanks for taking the time. It was great to connect.
Fantastic.